Good morning, curious minds. Today, we're diving into a story that really shattered the peace of a very affluent neighborhood in Bethesda, Maryland. We're talking about a high-end Lululemon store that became the scene of just a brutal and, frankly, baffling crime. We're going to unravel the police work, the chilling details, and a truth that, honestly, no one saw coming. Let's begin this deep dive. So the story really gets going on March 12th, 2011. The store manager, Rachel, she arrives a little before 8 a.m. expecting, a totally normal day. But right away, something's wrong. The Lululemon store door, it's unlocked. Her first thought is maybe an employee just forgot to lock up. But as she steps inside, there's this creeping sense of unease. Yoga clothes, leggings, they're all over the floor, not neatly folded, looks like a mess. She thinks, okay, robbery. So she backs out, planning to call the police. But just then, outside, she runs into someone. A guy named Ryan. He's actually waiting in line next door at the Apple store. The new iPad 2 was launching, believe it or not. Big deal back then. Anyway, he sees Rachel's upset, asks if he can help, and he mentions something interesting. He says he's been waiting there for almost 2 hours, since before 6 a.m., and he hasn't seen a soul go in or out of Lululemon, which suggests, whatever happened inside. It happened earlier. Before 6 a.m. So Ryan, being a good guy, goes back into the store with Rachel. They find the cash register empty. Yep, safe's cleared out. Receipts scattered. Definitely looks like a robbery. But as they move deeper into the store, it just gets worse. Much worse. In the fitting room area, there's broken glass everywhere and blood footprints. And chillingly, these blood smears on the walls, like someone injured was dragging themselves along. Rachel's totally overwhelmed at this point, understandably. She runs out again to call 911. Ryan, though, insists on checking the back rooms. Alone. Yeah. Pretty brave. He follows this trail of blood towards the back, and what he finds back there is just unimaginable. It's the body of a woman. Jenna Marray, 30 years old, face down in a huge pool of blood. She looks lifeless. Injuries around her neck. But the horror isn't quite over yet. From a nearby employee restroom, Ryan hears something. A faint sound. Like a gasp or a moan. He goes to check it out and finds a second woman. Brittany Norwood, 28 years old. She's lying on her back, also covered in blood. Her wrists and ankles are bound with zip ties. There's a Lululemon shirt wrapped around her neck, cuts, scratches all over her body, and a really nasty gash on her forehead. But incredibly, she's still breathing.
Yeah, and right there, that's the immediate puzzle for investigators. You have this stark contrast. One victim, Jenna, appears brutally murdered, almost tortured. The other, Brittany, injured, bound, but alive. That difference, the disparate nature of their conditions right from the start, that's a huge detail. It raises so many questions immediately. Is this really just a robbery gone wrong?
Exactly. So police and paramedics arrive fast. Jenna Marray is tragically pronounced dead right there at the scene. Brittany Norwood, she's rushed to the hospital. Initially, they suspect sexual assault because her leggings are torn. The crime scene itself is processed meticulously. They find this Buddha statue, bloodstained, near where Brittany was found. They think maybe that was used to hit her forehead, causing that big laceration. And then in the room where Janie was found, there's a toolbox. Inside, a hammer, a wrench, a knife, all bloodstained, likely used on Jenny. Police also find a shoe, a big one, size 14 U.S. Reebok trainer. And they identify two sets of footprints, one small like a size 5 or 6, probably female, and one large size 14 matching that Reebok shoe found at the scene, likely male, they assume at first. These larger footprints, they lead towards the fire exit, but then they turn back, which is weird.
It is weird. That detail, the footprints turning back from the fire exit, it's crucial. It suggests the attacker's plan was disrupted somehow. Maybe they heard something or someone was coming, and having only two clear footprint sizes, especially that large one matching the shoe, it gives them a very specific initial profile to work with.
And we learned a bit about Jenna Marray, just 30 years old, apparently really well liked by her colleagues, devastated fiance. He'd bought her engagement ring only 2 weeks before. Just awful. Then the autopsy results for Jenna come back, and they are just staggering. Horrifying. She had sustained 331 distinct injuries, 331. About 200 of those were concentrated on her head, face, and neck. 13 skull fractures. And the medical examiner determined she was alive through all 331 injuries. She finally died from a single stab wound to the back of her neck that severed her spinal cord.
Just think about that, 331 injuries.
It's unbearable.
Forensics identified marks from 5 different objects, the hammer, wrench, knife, rope, even that Buddha statue.
Oh, and chillingly, they found strands of her own hair clutched in her hand. She fought desperately.
Right. And here's where it gets really interesting from an investigative standpoint. That level of brutality, the sheer number of injuries, the prolonged nature of the attack, That speaks volumes about the rage involved. It's highly, highly unusual for just a robbery. This pushes the investigation immediately beyond simple theft. This looks personal.
Yeah, it screams personal rage. And then you look at Brittany Norwood's injuries. Surprisingly, they turn out to be mostly superficial. Scratches, minor cuts, really only that laceration on her forehead and a cut between her thumb and forefinger are considered significant. She's actually released from the hospital the same day. Doesn't even need to stay overnight. Which, when you put that next to Janae's 331 injuries, it's a massive discrepancy, right?
It's a huge red flag, a glaring inconsistency that immediately makes investigators pause and rethink everything. Why would supposed attackers inflict such extreme, prolonged violence on one victim and leave the other with relatively minor wounds even after binding her? It just doesn't add up. The focus really starts to shift towards Brittany.
So they start digging into Brittany's background, and it turns out, despite coming from a supportive, well-off family, she has kind of a troubled history. Back in college, she was apparently known for stealing small things from her soccer teammates. Lip gloss, money, earrings. Little stuff, but persistent. It actually got her kicked off the team eventually.
And this pattern is important. It wasn't just college pranks. It suggests maybe something more clinical, like kleptomania. That's an impulse control disorder where people steal for the thrill, not because they need the items. It's a key part of her psychological picture. And, crucially, we also learned she was transferred to this Lululemon store from another branch. Why? Because she'd been caught stealing from the store there too.
Wow. Okay, so Brittany gives the police her story. A very detailed story. She claims she forgot her Metro card after closing, so she called Janae. Apparently, Janae remembered she'd forgotten her engagement ring, too. Convenient. So Janae comes back, lets Brittany in. They leave the door unlocked, lights off. As they're about to leave again, she says 2 masked men in black, one tall, one short, jump out from behind some mannequins. She describes the tall man hitting Janae on the head, then dragging her to a back room. Meanwhile, the shorter man supposedly forces Brittany to empty the cash register and the safe. Then, she says, the shorter guy drags her to a different back room, ties her up with zip ties, and subjects her to this horrific ordeal, cuts her, punches her, uses racist slurs, sexually assaults her with her own torn leggings, and then abuses her further with a coat rack pull. Just awful details. She even says she could hear Janae screaming from the other room until the screams just faded out. Finally, she claims the attackers told her they spared her life because she was, quote, more fun in bed, and left her tied up in the employee restroom. She expresses immense guilt, saying it's all her fault Janae died because she called her back to the store.
It's a harrowing account, absolutely. But for investigators, the sheer level of convenient detail, the almost movie-like narrative, it can actually be a red flag. Her ability to recall specifics like racist slurs or the exact sequence under such extreme claimed duress is something they'd analyze very closely. Does it sound rehearsed? Does it fit the physical evidence?
Right. So police start searching for these 2 mystery men, and they check the Apple Store CCTV footage from the night before. Around 10 p.m., the cameras do show 2 men in dark clothes, one tall, one short, walking past the Lululemon store. Looks promising initially.
Yeah, that must have seemed like a potential break early on, exactly matching her description.
But it doesn't pan out. Police track them down pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Turns out they're just restaurant workers who walk that way home every night.
Yeah.
Totally innocent. The lead evaporates.
Right. So the external suspects, the ones Brittany described, they're cleared. That forces investigators to reevaluate her story even more critically.
And then comes another crucial piece of information. A witness. Yana, an employee working the late shift at the Apple Store next door. She tells police that between 10:00 and 10:00 p.m. the previous night, she clearly heard sounds coming from Lululemon. Arguing, screaming, banging. She thought maybe it was just Friday night noise from the street at first, but it was continuous. Dragging sounds too. Heavy dragging. And here's the key part. Yana says she heard 2 female voices arguing. Distinctly female. She remembers hearing things like, please don't do this, let's talk peacefully, and God help me, God help me. But crucially, she heard no male voices at all.
That is a huge contradiction, a massive crack in Brittany's narrative. If there were 2 male attackers shouting racist abuse and assaulting Brittany, why did Yana right next door only hear 2 women arguing? It makes no sense.
And apparently the sound stopped suddenly when an Apple Store security guard touched the shared wall. Neither Yana nor the guard called the police, though, unfortunately.
The sudden stop is also telling. It suggests whoever was inside was aware they might be overheard, which doesn't fit with attackers supposedly lost in a violent frenzy. It points towards someone more in control, more conscious of their surroundings.
Then there's Janae's car. It was initially reported missing, but police find it parked just 2 or 3 blocks away. And get this, a patrol officer actually saw that car earlier, around 12:30 a.m., parked with its lights on and one person visible inside. 2 hours later, around 2:30 a.m., the same officer notices the car is still there, but now it's empty, lights off. Inside the car, police find a hat. And on the hat, there's a blood stain containing DNA. Whose blood and DNA? Brittany Norwood's. And the stain is exactly where her forehead injury would bleed onto a hat brim.
So what does this all mean? It's devastating for Brittany's story. She claims she was left tied up, incapacitated in the store's restroom from around 10 p.m. onwards. Yet her blood is found in Jenna's car, blocks away, hours later, likely around 12:30 a.m. when the officer saw someone inside. It proved she wasn't incapacitated. It proved she was out, moving the car, manipulating the scene. It completely unravels her timeline.
An undeniable physical link. And it gets worse for her story. The medical examination finds absolutely no physical evidence of sexual assault. None. No foreign DNA, no bodily fluids, nothing to corroborate her graphic claims. The only thing was her torn leggings, which investigators realized could easily have been self-inflicted. Then the forensic analysis of Brittany's own injuries comes back with some damning conclusions. That cut between her thumb and forefinger, consistent with holding a knife that slipped, cutting her own hand, not a defensive wound.
Right, like maybe she was using it as a weapon.
Exactly, and the big laceration on her forehead. More consistent with swinging something blunt like that Buddha statue and having it rebound and hit herself, rather than being struck while trying to duck or defend herself.
That's incredible detail from the forensic pathology.
It really is. And then, maybe the most damning piece of all. Remember the zip ties used to bind her wrists?
Yeah.
Police examine them closely. They find bite marks on the plastic. They test the bite marks. They match Brittany Norwood's own teeth.
Wow. She bit her own zip ties. To tighten them. Or maybe to make it look like she struggled.
Possibly trying to tighten them, or maybe just part of the staging. Either way, it confirms she tied herself up.
Okay, that's it then. Those forensic details are pretty much the nails in the coffin for her story. Physical evidence doesn't lie. The lack of sexual assault evidence, the self-inflicted nature of her wounds, the bite marks on the ties, it all points directly back to her. She wasn't a victim in the way she claimed. She staged it.
With Brittany's entire story just crumbling, police dig even deeper into her past behavior. And they uncover this consistent, frankly alarming pattern of deceit and theft, going way back. Stealing from an employer when she was a teenager, defrauding a roommate, stealing from a hair salon, even faking college degrees on her resume, and stalking and stealing from an ex-boyfriend. It wasn't just the store thefts, it was a lifestyle. And her relationship with Jenna specifically was strained. We find out Jenna had caught Brittany stealing from Lululemon before. There was even a secret staff meeting about it. The decision was basically, if Brittany stole again, she'd be fired. And just before the murder, Jenna apparently suspected Brittany was stealing again. She was about to be caught.
So, if we connect all those dots, the motive becomes pretty clear, doesn't it? Brittany's facing exposure. Losing her job, losing face, maybe even legal trouble. Her whole image, maybe this dream of being a fitness trainer, it's all about to collapse because Jenna knows the truth. Given her history of deception and theft to avoid consequences, it seems likely this confrontation with the no pushed her into an extreme, desperate, and ultimately violent act to silence the person who could expose her.
It seems that way. Faced with all this evidence piling up, Brittany makes one last weak attempt to explain away the car evidence. She claims the attackers forced her to move Jenna's car, saying she was too terrified to flag down that passing patrol car she must have seen. She even tried to claim she didn't know what kind of car Jenna drove, which was just unbelievable given they'd supposedly arrived together. Police obviously didn't buy it for a second. When they confront her with the full picture, the witness hearing female voices, her blood in the car, the fake injuries, the bite marks, her answers become short, evasive. Eventually, she just asks, "Can I go home now?" Police, still hoping for maybe some kind of confession, decide to bring in her siblings, her brother Chris and sister Marisa. In their presence, Brittany leans over to her brother and whispers, "Do you think there are cameras here?"
Wow.
And then she adds, "I don't want to talk about it here."
That's chilling. Essentially an admission right there, isn't it? Knowing her story won't hold up if she talks where she might be recorded.
Exactly. It sealed her fate. Just 1 week after that horrifying discovery in the store, on March 18th, 2011, Brittany Norwood was arrested and charged with the first-degree murder of Jenna Marray. She never did confess to the actual crime, though. The police theory, which became the prosecution's case, was stark. Brittany, desperate to avoid being fired and exposed for stealing again, confronted Jenna after closing. Their argument, the one Jenna heard next door, escalated violently. Brittany then attacked Jenna brutally, using various items from the store's toolbox and that statue. Then, over the next few hours, she meticulously staged the scene to look like a robbery homicide, inflicted superficial wounds on herself, bound herself, moved Jenny's car, and waited to be found. Her defense team tried to argue for temporary insanity, or at least that the murder wasn't premeditated. They pointed out she didn't have Jenna's phone number, implying she couldn't have planned to lure her back. But the court didn't buy it. The evidence of staging, the sheer brutality over time, it pointed towards intent. Brittany Norwood was found guilty of first-degree murder. She was sentenced to life in prison with no possibility of parole.
It's just a really stark case, a reminder of how elaborate a story someone can construct to cover up something terrible. But also, it shows how powerful forensic science and persistent investigation can be in cutting through those lies. The police work here, piecing it together so quickly despite the initial misdirection, was really quite remarkable.
Absolutely. And the impact on Jenna's family, it's just unimaginable. They initially felt sympathy for Brittany. They thought she was a fellow victim suffering alongside them. They even sent flowers to her hospital room. And then to find out that this person, their daughter's colleague, someone they thought was a friend, was actually the killer. The betrayal must have been devastating, compounding their grief.
Oh, absolutely. That's one of the cruelest twists in cases like this. Grieving such a horrific loss and then realizing the person you shared that initial grief with, the person you offered compassion to, was the perpetrator. It adds such a deep layer of trauma and violation of trust. It's just heartbreaking to consider what they went through.
It really is. Today, the Lululemon store there in Bethesda, it's been renovated, it's still open. Apparently, the front window now has this mosaic glass design that spells out the word love. A quiet kind of tribute, perhaps, to Jenna Marray. This whole story really drives home that things are often not what they seem on the surface. What began as this hunt for two phantom attackers ended up revealing the killer was the person right there, crafting the entire illusion. It shows how far someone might go to hide a dark truth, but also how physical evidence often ends up telling the real story, the one that can't be easily manipulated. It definitely makes you think, doesn't it? How much weight do we give a narrative, especially from someone presenting as a victim, when the hard evidence starts pointing in a completely different direction? What do you make of all the layers of deception here? If you found this story as compelling and frankly chilling as we did, and you want to explore more true crime mysteries with us, please do like this deep dive, share it with anyone you think might be interested, and definitely subscribe to our channel, Horror Docs. Your support really helps us keep bringing these in-depth stories to you. Until next time, please stay safe and keep those critical thinking caps firmly on.